Ah, well lads, I've been waiting for years for this game to finally release, and it's happened. It's out. I can play it now. I've always wondered what this casino game is gonna play like, but you know, let's just go find out. I really wonder what genre it's gonna be though. I mean, I've been a JRPG menace this year, so I'm not gonna lie, I'll happily play another one. Should really get my eyes checked again. That was just Atlas re-releasing Persona 5.
It's not gambling, it's gaming. Try telling that to your therapist.
So, tell me, you spent 10,000 euro for the chance to get a PNG of an anime character. Can you tell me more about that?
This PNG has a new move.
Everyone's gambled at some point in their lives. Some have done it better than others. While I have covered the idea of luck in games before, that was back when I didn't know how to deal with lighting, so recording in my dark room in front of my blue walls to create a blue screen was my best bet. Hard to say what's different right now considering I still don't know. So, gambling in games. We may as well start with the most literal of places. Honestly, this is just funny to me. Like, this is your target audience, and you're putting a whole-ass slot machine in the game. Sure, it was removed in later versions like Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, but everything about this is hilarious to me. You're advertising the game to 10-year-olds. You create a casino. You let the 10-year-olds playing the game into the casino where they're also playing as a 10-year-old. And then all the adults give the kids coins to gamble. You know, when I think about it, it's actually fairly realistic. So while regular gambling is a waste of time and money, why don't we stretch that exact definition? This is entirely an excuse for me to bitch about RNG. So again, I've spoken about luck in games before, but that discussion was... One sec, let me get the exact definition.
Ah. It just says not good.
There's a lot of ways you can have RNG in a game. XCOM and Fire Emblem use misses, crits, or even regular damage rolls to throw a wrench into players' plans. And of course, there's the entirety of Pokemon battles, where there are moves with a chance to hit, a chance to trigger an effect, a chance to crit, a chance to get different damage rolls, and then every turn there's a chance for extra effects to even occur, like paralysis or confusion. But all of these RNG rates pale in comparison to one which has been both my best friend and worst enemy all my life: loot drops. Specifically, rare loot drops. These things are an absolute bitch. Rare loot drops on a common enemy, I can honestly understand. You'll encounter them so much that having a rare chance to get a little bonus reward is pretty chill.
Wither Skeletons having an indiscernibly low spawn rate, alongside a 2.5% chance to drop a Wither Skull, causing me to spend 3 to 4 hours searching through nether fortresses just so I can get 3 skulls to create a beacon is bullshit. Rare loot drops on common enemies, honestly, look, like I've already said, fair enough, it's not too bad. But rare loot drops on already rare enemies, it's just flat out annoying. You know how back in the NES days, games were made artificially harder just through raw bullshit so that you would play the game longer? Or how in the arcades, games are pretty hard just so you keep throwing coins in to play again and again? This is just the same tactic. It's just artificially extending playtime for no reason. This is nearly the exact same concept, especially in MMOs. You're just making the player play the game for longer, except they're not actually playing the game. They're just doing the same monotonous task over and over and over again until they eventually get the drops that they need. And with that, I've decided to open a help center for any and all members of society who wish to share their traumatic experiences with low drop rate items. Our first writer is Marie, who simply says, Terraria Blade staff can go fuck itself. I'd agree.
And there are way too many examples of rare loot drops that are just pointless. I mean, to stick with Minecraft and Terraria, tridents are, in the wise words of a good friend of mine who we just heard from, a Temu firework. They're way too hard to get for a pretty meh payoff that isn't even as good as it could be until you get some enchantments going. And then Terraria has the slime staff, a 1 in 10,000 chance of dropping from any slime, and it's one of the worst staffs in the game. Or you can just buy it on a special seed. I mean, whichever works, I guess.
From Kraken, we have this story. I once spent 15 hours trying to get a single Argent Crystal in Warframe. What I would give to not understand what that means. We also have something from Missouri, who says that he once spent 40 hours in Roblox TDS farming golden crates for the golden minigunner. Talk to me once you put those hours into Dress to Impress.
But you know something that scares me even more than low odds loot drops? I was just gonna say heights, but this is even worse. While low odds loot drops technically aren't gambling, but do waste your time in the same way, rotational shops, specifically ones that operate off of the fear of missing out, aren't the same thing, except actual money is involved now. Fortnite was what really got these to take off, but literally any live service game uses these. League, Valorant, Overwatch, Apex, Roblox games, Clash Royale, you get the idea. An item of any kind will be released, whether it's cosmetic or gameplay related, and it'll be available for whatever length of time, typically a few weeks to a month, and then it's just gone. And if you want to see it again, you need to log in, be it every day, week, or month, to find out what's on offer at the moment. Did the one thing you want to buy show up on a day you couldn't log in? Tough luck, time to wait whatever length of time. Sure, it's not gambling, I'm absolutely stretching things here, but it's also not like I'm saying anything new or crazy by mentioning that I don't think this is a healthy monetization tactic. Forcing players to log in every day for a chance to spend money, only so that when we actually see it released in the shop, they grab it immediately, since no one knows when it's coming back, possibly for a price that it actually shouldn't be at. But it's fine, the billion-dollar corporation defenders cry. You're the one spending your money. You're the one choosing you to buy it. There's nothing wrong with it because it's up to you. I want you to look me dead in my goddamn eyes and tell me with a straight face that $500 is a perfectly reasonable price point for a set of pixels. You disagree? Because it's still within your control to be the one that purchases it? Well, let's go gambling.
Solaire put in that they are currently 12,000 Masuda method eggs deep into a shiny hunt for Score Bunny. You know, after a certain point, I think it's just destined to not happen. Another submission comes in from one Shin Mario, saying that he has played World of Warcraft for over a decade and only just got Rivendare's Death Charger, a mount with a 0.9% drop chance. This guy's been playing WoW for nearly longer than my conscience has manifested. And finally, we've got one coming in for one of my best friends, Weasley, who just says, "Me after you pulled Priest Gregor first try." It's just a Kaneki image. Anyway, that concludes our talk show. Any future submissions could be sent to the void between now and whenever the sun blows up. But for the moment, it's time for me to bitch.
Gacha gambling monetary systems can go jump into a cold lake while wearing a diamond-encrusted bulletproof vest. I hate these things. Returning to League for a moment, both it and TFT have a gacha system for cosmetics that I despise. Whether it's the special chroma versions of legendary skins that you have to gamble for, or TFT's special edition chibis, I just don't respect these, even though they do have a pity system, so after a certain amount of chest openings, you will get the cosmetic no matter what. It's still dumb. The cap is $200 for these League skins. And you know what makes it worse? People will take the piss out of you for owning these, which I do fully endorse, but it also sucks, because I have the Soul Fighter Gwen chibi. I got it on my second roll using free tokens. Why do I get yelled at just for being blessed? A lot of gacha systems implement pity systems of some variety, which is nice and all, I appreciate it, but this is still gambling. Nearly all of these games are advertised to young audiences. And while I hold a deep hatred for these systems, there is one game, one singular title in the gaming monetization sphere that I couldn't respect if I tried. And trust me, even if I did try, I wouldn't.
Níla Rim Berla agus ní maiid an éonrad echo like a nóméid seo.
Collector packs at Apex, or collection events as they're actually called, are packs you buy which contain a variety of items. So if there's just one skin you want, you can't buy it outright, you have to get this gamble box. Those are just loot boxes, you might think, and you'd be right, but they're not just loot boxes. They're loot boxes that increase in price with each one you buy. They scam you more than normal loot boxes. And speaking of loot boxes, that would actually give me a chance to talk about Overwatch, but they don't exist in it anymore, so I'll have to refrain from discussing it, which is fine, it doesn't affect me at all.
66, damn it!
Alright, time to address the elephant in the room. Gacha games. I do need to clarify, gacha games aren't inherently bad as games or anything of that sort. If you enjoy them, for whatever reason it may be, from gameplay to art or music, I fully get it, and all the more power to you. And I have to say that to protect myself from what I'm about to do. I don't like gacha-based monetary systems. What do you think I've been bitching about for the last 9 minutes? More specifically, I don't like their predatory monetization model. After the shit I had to say about Roblox, is anyone surprised? Sure, some are far worse than others, and I'll even get into a good one in a moment, but what I want to say is that either way, whether it's for Pokemon, anime girls, or fucking CSGO crates, gambling is gambling. Gambling isn't gaming, and personally, I really don't like the fact that these predatory and addictive designs just get shoved under the rug as, it's just part of the genre, it's just par for the course. Like yeah, getting hit in the head by a soccer ball is something to expect during a match, but that doesn't change the fact that we shouldn't be letting these lads give themselves brain damage. Just get a helmet, bro. There's not a lot to be said here that hasn't already been said before about gachas and even mobile games and microtransactions as a whole, but there is one thing that I can bring up. A lot of these games, in fairness to them as many would say, have a pity system in place, like I mentioned with League earlier. So after a certain amount of rolls, or more aptly put, after you spend a certain amount of money, they give you higher odds or just flat out give you whatever it is you're trying to guess. And I like to take this time to point out the fact that the game has to take pity on you for spending this much money on it. This is not healthy. And again, this isn't simply a just don't spend money, Lamau. Several tactics are at play to get you to spend that money. Genshin players, not to beat you into the ground like you already have been several times, but I'm going to use your game as an example here. There's the classic daily login rewards, an overly grindy nature forcing you to spend more time in the game, which some may enjoy, but as someone making videos, going to college and helping out at home, that type of time isn't available. And with this solution being offered to me, being to spend money to lessen that time investment, you can see where issues may pop up. But Genshin in particular has some other, we'll say, ulterior motives to try to get you to throw out your wallet for some characters, such as trial events of the characters at their full build strength, giving you a taste of how fun they can be, something which happens across all Hoyoverse games. On the one hand, it is nice to get these trials of characters to see if you enjoy them, but since they're kind of a power trip, it makes you really want them. There's even something as small as gaining Primo Gems for doing anything. Like if you sprint for long enough to get this currency, just giving players little dopamine hits to keep them playing, because the longer you play, the more likely you are to spend. And of course, there's the FOMO element of banners, and this applies to practically every gacha. A new character is available for a limited time before being taken away for months or even forever. Or sometimes 2 entirely new games from the same company come out before a rerun of a character does. And I've not even touched daily quests or battle passes. Obviously, all these monetary tactics, while not being inherently wrong, are certainly addictive and often predatory in their nature, which leads them to being wrong, especially when so many of these audiences are teenagers. And of course, there's another key issue that arises in a lot of these types of games involving an over-sexualization of women, and if you're the type who would start an argument over this, please consider moving the monster cans off your desk and floor and into your bin first. I mean, any Hoyoverse game, Azure Lane, Wuthering Waves, all these sorts of anime-style gachas have these really hot characters in an attempt to get a certain type of person to spend more, but that's its own discussion entirely. Even the gachas that could be described as good, like Limbus Company, a game I installed just while coming up with this video and have actually been enjoying despite the combat in the first few hours being less than stellar, uses these mobile games and gacha mechanics. They have the daily quests and the grind needed to get characters up to bigger numbers. However, the scale of greed, be it for the player's money or time held by Limbus Company and Project Moon, is so incredibly low, it can nearly be fully excused. I say nearly because a 17-year-old could still play the game and develop gambling habits, because when I was doing some of the free pulls I had available, I could feel the little hits of dopamine just at the sight of funky colors and the new character I was getting, which made me want to pull even more. I also pulled the exact same 3-star character 3 times, and apparently he's one of the worst characters in the game, so I don't even know if I was winning or losing. And I need to point out as well, depending on the gacha in question, you can roll a really rare and powerful character, and suddenly every ounce of challenge is taken away, which is partially what happened to me in Limbus. I rolled what is apparently one of the best characters in the game, and now there's just kind of nothing in terms of challenge left. Though at the same time for Limbus specifically, I'm so early in the game that the worst character could still make the early game really easy. There are certain genres where getting those lucky rolls that completely demolish the challenge is part of the fun. Look no further than roguelikes, where the god run is the godsend we all play for. The luck and gambling aspect of these games can even be a gameplay mechanic by itself, which really fucks with things once we're into the pay-to-win mobile and Roblox games, where the only way you actually win is by having the better credit card. Obviously, the general consensus that microtransactions bad has existed for years. It's nothing new to be discussed at this point, but that doesn't change the fact that the general mindset of blame the gambler, not the casino, is starting to breach and leak into games, which is something that only encourages the idea that it's not gambling, it's gaming. Yes, at the end of the day, it's the player who chooses to spend their money. But that doesn't change the fact that these companies want it so badly that they will employ every dirty tactic possible to try and get you to spend it. If they could threaten to shoot you so that you would give them your wallet, first they take a knife to your chest, then they'd shoot you and loot your bank account. Yes, gacha games and games with rotational shops and microtransactions are still games. They're still gaming, but it's still gambling.
A lot of underage individuals play these games. They're the target audiences, and they're exposed to these tactics at such a young age that they think it's perfectly normal to have to spend either 5 days or 5 quid in order to progress. So, I decided there's only 2 options. We either stop these companies from using these harmful tactics, or we jail everyone who has ever opened a loot box as a child. I also laundered $6.3 billion.